Book 20 starts on Mount Olympus. This time we've got Zeus there, and he's going to call a council of the gods. And this is where everything really shifts up a gear, because the gods are going to get involved in the fighting even more than they have done in the past. So meanwhile, Zeus, from the top of many delled Olympus, dells are like little valleys, little crevices there, bade Themis gather the gods in council. Now Themis was a goddess of councils and divine order, so it makes sense to send her to call all the gods together. Now this is not just a gathering of a few gods, this is going to be a gathering of pretty much every divine person or spirit you can come across. Let's continue. Whereon she went about and called them to the house of Zeus. There was not a river absent. The reason they say a river is most rivers had its own spirit or its own nymph or god or goddess. So they're all coming except for Oceanus, nor a single one of the nymphs that haunt the fair groves. So everyone's turning up to this council. It's a big one. Or springs or rivers and meadows of green grass. All the little deities as well as the big guys are all turning up at Zeus's house. When they reached the house of cloud-compelling Zeus, they took their seats in the arcades of polished marble which Hephaestus, with his consummate skill, had made for Father Zeus. Of course, Hephaestus will have made them, because he is the craftsman god. In such a way, or in such wise, therefore, did they gather in the house of Zeus. Poseidon also, he's the sea god, I expect you know, lord of the earthquake, obeyed the call of the goddess and came up out of the sea to join them. There, sitting in the midst of them, he asked what Zeus's purpose might be. "Why," said he, "wielder of the lightning, have you called the gods in council? Are you considering some matter that concerns the Trojans and Greeks? For the blaze of battle is on the point of being kindled between them." He's seen right to the heart of the matter, so he's just asking Zeus, "Are we here because the Trojans and Greeks are about to fight?" "Yaha." And Zeus answered, "You know my purpose, shaker of earth." So he's the earthquake god as well as the sea god. That's why he's referring to him as the shaker of earth. "And wherefore I have called you hither." So that's why I've called you guys here. "I take thought for them even in their destruction." I'm thinking of them even though they are falling down and dying. "For my own part I shall stay here seated on Mount Olympus and look on in peace." So that's his promise. He is going to stay out of the fighting and he's going to look on from heaven. "But do you others go about amongst Trojans and Greeks and help either side as you may be severally disposed." So however each of you wants to, you can go out and help either the Greek side or the Trojan side. "If Achilles fights the Trojans without hindrance, without being stopped, they will make no stand against him. They have ever trembled at the sight of him, and now that he is roused to such fury about his comrade, he will override fate itself and storm their city." So Zeus is saying that the other gods have to go out and help the Trojans and the Greeks, because if they don't, Achilles is so powerful and strong that he can even overcome fate, and the Trojans won't be able to stop him. Thus spoke Zeus and gave the word for war, whereon the gods took their several sides and went into battle. Hera, Pallas Athene, earth encircling Poseidon, Hermes bringer of good luck, and excellent in all cunning, all these joined the host that came from the ships. With them also came Hephaestus in all his glory, limping, because he's the lame god, but yet with his thin legs plying lustily under him. So even though he was a crippled god, that's what he's referred to as, he could still support his weight even though his legs weren't very strong. Ares of gleaming helmets joined the Trojans, and with him Apollo of locks unshorn, and the archer goddess Artemis, Leto, Xanthus, and laughter-loving Aphrodite. Okay, they are going on the Trojan side. So to just summarize that, supporting the Greeks, we've got Hera. Now she's the queen of the gods. She's Zeus's sister. She's also Zeus's wife, yucky yuck. And she's generally known as a goddess that supports women, or represents women. So you've got Hera, you've got Athene. Now Athene, we already know, she's a goddess of war and of wisdom. So when we say she's a goddess of war, she often represents like strategies in war and thinking and planning and cunning. We've got Poseidon, so he's a god of the sea and of earthquakes. But remembering that each of the gods actually have a large number of different powers or areas of expertise that they represent. We've got Hermes. He's generally known as the messenger god, but he's also the god of a whole heap of stuff, including being cunning and the god of thieves. And we've got Hephaestus, who's the lame god. He's the blacksmith, he's the craftsman. So we've got 5 of the Olympian gods supporting the Greeks. There are 12 Olympian gods, and 5 of the bigwigs, they're all on the Greek side. We know they're on the Greek side because they're the ones who are going to help the host that came from the ships, the ones who came from the boats. On the other side, we've got those supporting the Trojans. We've got Ares, who's a god of war, but he's a god of war. It's the physical, violent, chaotic side of war, not the planning, not the organised bit. We've got Apollo. He's another one of the bigwigs, and he's the god of the sun. He's a god of light. He's often referred to as a god of truth. He's the god of prophecy. We've got Artemis, who's Apollo's sister. She's a goddess of hunting. And then we've got Apollo and Artemis's mum. So their mum was Leto, and she doesn't really play a massive role in most of the Greek myths. She's often referred to only as being the mother of Apollo and Artemis. And guess who dad was? Yep, it was Zeus. So this is another one of Zeus's conquests. So Zeus and Leto got together and they had Apollo and Artemis. Xanthus is also on the side of the Trojans. Xanthus, like Leto, neither of them are Olympian gods or goddesses. Xanthus is the god of Troy, also the god of the river that comes around past Troy, and that river's name is Scamander. So Scamander was the river itself, and Xanthus is the god of that river. So Xanthus, of course, will be on the side of the Trojans, but isn't quite as big and powerful as the others. The final god supporting the Trojans in this list is Aphrodite, the god of love and beauty. So in that you have represented, out of the 12 normal Olympian gods, you've got Zeus, who is going to stay out of the fighting. You've got Hera, you've got Athena, you've got Poseidon, you have Hermes, you have Hephaestus, all on the side of the Greeks. And on the other side, you have Ares, you have Apollo, you have Artemis, and you have Aphrodite. So that's the large majority of the Olympians all fighting on behalf of either the Greeks or the Trojans. We'll get back to the text now. So long as the gods held themselves aloof from mortal warriors, the Greeks were triumphant, for Achilles, who had long refused to fight, was now with them. There was not a Trojan, but his limbs failed him for fear as he beheld the fleet son of Peleus, all glorious in his armour and looking like Ares himself. So while the gods stayed out of the fighting, as they had predicted, none of the Trojans can stand up to Achilles. When, however, the Olympians came to take their part among men, so that's saying the Olympian gods, it also includes those others like Leto and Xanthus. When the gods got involved, is another way of saying it, forthwith uprose strong strife. So strife is personified here. It's saying strife is like a person or like a god, and strife, of course, is that is like that chaos, that suffering, that pain, that difficulty, which rouses hosts, they say. So as soon as the gods come about, strife comes along, rouser of hosts. So wakes up all of the people, and everyone gets back involved. And Athene raised her loud voice, now standing by the deep trench that ran outside the wall, and now shouting with all her might upon the shore of the sounding sea. So Athene is adding to this chaos, adding to the energy and everything that's going on. Ares also bellowed out upon the other side, dark as some black thundercloud, and called on the Trojans at the top of his voice. Now from the Acropolis, that's the high place, often where you have the temples, and now speeding up the side of the river Simois till he came to the hill Calacolone. This is no longer a battle of humans. This is the gods fully involved. You can just picture the chaos and the carnage that is taking place. Thus did the gods spur on both hosts to fight. Both large groups, the armies, get involved, get out there, give it a good one, and rouse fierce contention also amongst themselves. So now it was fighting between the gods as well as the people. The sire of gods, Zeus, so the sire of gods and men thundered from heaven above, while from beneath Poseidon shook the vast earth and bade the high hills tremble. So it's chaos. You've got thunder and lightning and coming from the sky. You've got Poseidon shaking the earth itself. I mean, this is just dreadful stuff. The spurs and crests, so the top parts, all the peaks of many fountained Ida quaked. So Mount Ida's shaking like a volcano, as also the city of the Trojans and the ships of the Greeks. Everything's shaking. It's chaos. And Hades, now he hasn't really been involved. He's in the underworld, of course. Hades, king of the realms below, was struck by fear. He sprang panic-stricken from his throne and cried aloud in terror lest Poseidon, lord of the earthquake, should crack the ground over his head and lay bare his mouldy mansions to the sight of mortals and immortals. Mansions so ghastly grim that even the gods shudder to think of them. So Hades is so scared that Poseidon and everything upstairs is going to crack the roof or crack the earth and reveal the underworld to everybody, the horrible mansions where the dead live. Such was the uproar as the gods came together in battle. Apollo with his arrows took his stand to face King Poseidon, while Athene took hers against the god of war. The archer goddess Artemis with her golden arrows, sister of far-darting Apollo, stood to face Hera. Hermes, the lusty bringer of good luck, faced Leto, while the mighty eddying river, whom men call Scamander but god Xanthus, matched himself against Hephaestus. So you've got the gods facing off against each other one-on-one. This is totally cool. The gods then were thus ranged against one another.